Ladies and gentlemen, just in the last 24 hours, President Trump has absolutely kicked things into overdrive, and as it would seem, the Democrats are going into complete and total meltdown mode. You see, as if President Trump and his cabinet members weren't getting enough done already, it would seem as if in just the last 24 hours, there's been an agenda blitz that's left the Democrats absolutely scrambling. So with today's video, what I want to do is take a look across the playing field and really break down everything that's been going on. And folks, I'll tell you what, a lot has been going on. So hey, to kick things off, I want you guys to take a look at this video clip in which President Trump absolutely destroys the governor of Maine for not complying with his executive order to get boys out of girls' sports. Take a look.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
You hear that, folks? What an absolute takedown. But you know what? That was really exemplary of one of the ongoing issues within the country right now. You see, as you might have noticed, there's a series of progressive activist governors across the country that are doing every single thing they can to undermine Trump's agenda. And when I say Trump's agenda, what that really means is our agenda, because we're the ones that put him in office. So in fact, speaking of belligerent progressives, take a look at what Attorney General Pam Bondi just had to say about the governors of sanctuary states.
I sued the state of Illinois, I sued the governor, and I said, if you don't stop, you're next. New York kept going. They were belligerent, sued New York, sued the governor, not going to stop. So, you're going to be next if you're not watching what we're doing, and we will be successful, and we will make America safe again.
And so, hey, here's the deal. That's what every reasonable American wants. We all voted for President Trump so that he could get these radical progressive politicians back under control and so that he could fix all of the issues that they created inside of the country. But hey, you know what? It's not just radical progressive politicians that the Trump administration has to deal with right now. It's also radical progressive unelected officials within the federal government. But before we take a look at that, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But okay, so take a look at what Pete Hegseth just had to say about various Pentagon and military officials that have refused to comply with Trump's new directives about shutting down DEI programs.
President Trump has given another set of lawful orders, and they will be followed. If they're not followed, and all these orders are in keeping with the Constitution and norms inside the military, if they're not followed, then those officers will find the door. And that's not a tough calculation. We feel really good about the direction the Pentagon is headed under President Trump. We're going to focus on warfighting and lethality and accountability and be the most transparent Pentagon that folks have seen in a long time, which is why I explain these things on a regular basis.
Okay, so folks, let me ask you a question. Do you guys agree with that approach? Because in my opinion, if you're in the Pentagon or U.S. military and you refuse to comply with the president's mandates about shutting down various DEI programs, you've got to go. And actually, this is exactly the sort of behavior we're talking about when we talk about the deep state or the swamp, a bunch of unelected federal employees that think they don't have to follow Trump's directives. They think they can just continue on doing whatever they want, acting with complete and total impunity, and that nothing will happen to them. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore. In fact, take a look at this. Just earlier today, President Trump issued the firing of 2,000 workers at USAID and put thousands more of them on leave. And on top of that, the former USAID building has now officially been repurposed as an operations hub for border enforcement agents. So hey, in my opinion, this sends a pretty clear message. All of these corrupt members of the deep state can either comply with President Trump's orders or they can get out of the way. Those are the only two options. And hey, you know what? Just earlier today, Tulsi Gabbard actually sent a very clear message to the deep state. Take a look.
We've seen people in positions of great power tell us that, oh, well, if we just violate your civil liberties and freedom a little bit, it's okay because we're trying to keep you safe. Unfortunately, we've seen this for decades, and the more our freedoms are eroded, the more the foundations of our democracy are eroded. So, a lot of people talk about national security or security threats, but there's two components of that leaders have to really uphold, which is, yes, there's such a thing as a threat to physical security, but the threat to our freedom and our liberty must be balanced right alongside.
And so, folks, guess what? She is 100% right about all of that. For decades, basic American freedoms and civil liberties have been slowly whittled away, but now we're finally going to do something about it. Because what seems to be the case is that President Trump and his administration are willing to send out as many lawsuits and impeachments as it takes to hold these progressive saboteurs accountable. And hey, if you ask me, I think that's a good thing. These people don't get to just undermine the will of the president, or more accurately, the will of the people, because once again, we put him in office just because they don't agree with everything that's happening. It might come as a surprise to the Democrats, but this country actually operates under a form of democracy, which means that the people get to decide what happens, not a bunch of unelected members of the deep state. In fact, Republican House Rep Mike Lawler actually had a great breakdown of this entire situation just earlier today. Take a look.
Bottom line here, to me, is the Department of Defense needed a complete overhaul. President Trump ran on that. He said he was going to provide the Department of Defense an overhaul. We are in the most precarious place since the lead up to World War II, Martha, in large part because of the disastrous foreign policy of the Biden administration, including decisions made at the highest levels of the Pentagon, starting with that disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan. So the idea that there wouldn't be changes at the Pentagon, that they would somehow be exempt from changes in leadership with a new administration and a new foreign policy, and a Defense Department that is focused on military readiness above all other considerations. I don't know why anybody's surprised by changes at the upper echelon of the Defense Department. They're not exempt from failure or the need for a change in direction.
And so really, that's what all of this is about. All of the bloat, all of the waste, all of the fraud, and all of the corruption inside of the federal government is finally getting cut out. The reality is that the federal government has just become so unnecessarily large and massive that it was beginning to crumble underneath its own weight. I mean, hey, just take a look at our national debt as what is probably the best example of this. So you know what? I think we can all agree, thank God, finally something is being done about all of this. And folks, I'll tell you what, if President Trump and his administration can keep up this pace, it's going to be a very productive 4 years. But guys, I think that's going to be a wrap for this one, so please go down below in the comments, let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video if you liked it. Hey, like I said earlier, if you enjoy the daily news coverage, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course, as always, stay safe.